What's happening? You see, I got my Clark Kent on. You know what I'm saying? Got my Clark Kent on. So we're gonna get right to it. We're gonna open up with the music. We're gonna get busy. We ain't waiting on nobody. Let's go. You hear, you hear. If you're not, you're not.
This gives you a brief history of this bill. The bill of Honorable Guy Sibley of Mobile, Alabama, a Democrat, 1894 appropriates $400 million to the ex-slaves and pensions of Negroes who were emancipated. If he is dead, give it to his kids. If the kid is dead, give it to his grandchild. February 24th, 1898, Congressman Chaz Curtis of Kansas introduced a bill to pension every ex-slave and let the Secretary of the Interior, it's hard to read, Secretary of the Interior designate what amount to pay each. March 1st, 1898, Mr. Barkins introduced a bill granting land to the ex-slaves and all the money in the government vault. And all the money in the government vault from failure of the Freedmen Bureau at Washington, D.C. On 6, 1898, Senator William E. Mason reintroduced Senate Bill 4718 to pension the ex-slaves, appropriating, I think that might say $600 million, to ex-slaves in the United States. And all persons released from servitude, as before stated, who shall be less than 60 years old and of the age of 50 years or over shall be entitled to and receive the sum of $100 and also $8 per month until 60 years old. Y'all do the math, inflation. Somebody pull out an inflation calculator. When they shall receive $12, and all persons released from servitude, as before stated, who shall be less than 50 years of age, shall be entitled to receive $4 per month until 50 years old, when they shall receive $8. All monies herein authorized to be paid shall be dispensed from the general funds of the Treasury, not otherwise appropriated. Section 3, the relations of others who may be charged with the support of aged or infirm persons deceased from involuntary servitude in manner aforesaid shall be entitled to and receive the monthly pension awarded to such age or infirm person in whole or in part, showing to the satisfaction of the Secretary of the Interior, you know where the land files are, and that support is afforded in the humane and becoming manner, the amount of such payment being under the control and direction of the Secretary aforesaid. The Secretary of the Interior shall have power to prepare all needful rules and regulations for carrying into effect the provision of this act according to the true intent and meaning thereof, and to designate proper officers or agents through which freemen and other persons may make application for payment. Okay? And receive monies authorized to be paid by the provisions of this act. Now think of freedmen and other persons, right? Put a pin in that. And other persons, because I'm going to get to something. Authorized to be paid by the provisions of this act. That all needful rules and regulations for the carrying into effect of the provision of this act shall be approved by Congress before the taking effect thereof. Section 6, that the compensation of agents charged with the enforcement of this law shall be recommended by the Secretary of the Interior and approved by Congress. That this act shall take effect and be enforced from the day after the first day of January, AD 1800, and it's scratched out. Now, it's some handwriting on here. And the handwriting says, now we don't know what this handwriting, whether this handwriting from the 1800s or whether this handwriting from 1993. Because if I work at NARA and I see the book, some of this shit survive, and I don't like it, I might write this. The copy of this bill is as introduced in MS, whatever that says, June 6, 1898, Charles Bunch, Secretary, U.S. Senate, right? And then his handwriting under here says, it's hard to read, but to me it says this bill did not, I don't know whether that says become or not, but it looked like it says this bill did not become law, right? Again, this is handwritten. So what I did was I said, well, did the bill become law? You fucking lying to me? So I kept searching. I kept searching. So let me see, where's my next file? I found this. Clearly destroyed files. Clearly. January 13, 1900. Received of Mr. Henry Clay. And it says, paid out of said treasury of ex-slave. Pension. And it's hard to read. But I see it says whole state something. Then it says the ways and means. The ways and means. It's really hard to read, but it's all of these. It's a lot of these pension records that's in the United States possession. Like again, this is NARA. You see NARA there. All of this stuff is recorded in their possessions. And maybe someone said this never passed. Maybe it passed. And see how this is fleshing out. You know, we were supposed to be getting paid for the rest of our lives, descendants. And you see where it says, and other persons. I feel like this is the money that the Native Americans are getting every month. Because that's what I got as I was reading midnight. I mean, this had to be 5 in the morning at this point. But when I got off live that night, whatever time I got off live, time I laid my head on my pillow, I heard, put it together.
Now, the key word in this thing is pensions. So when you're dealing with pensions and they're talking about free slaves, this is how the Congress was putting this thing in action. Now, there is a Ways and Means Committee in Congress. Ways and Means Committee, right? So we get a clear understanding of what the Ways and Means Committee does. Ways and Means Committee. Right? So right here, Ways and Means Committee is the oldest and primary tax writing committee in Congress, established in 1789. It oversees revenue raising measures, tariffs, Social Security, Medicare, and trade. As of March 2026, it is focused on economic growth, tax policy, and overseeing tax-exempt organizations. So if she's talking about the Ways and Means Committee, this is what you talk about. This is the oldest and primary tax writing committee in Congress. So the Ways and Means Committee, and what they're not mentioning in here, also deals with the distribution of funds and appropriation of funds in different places based on certain situations like this one. All right, so you guys know what that is. So that's interesting.
Hey, man, get in here, man. You're gonna like this one. This is something very special. Have you ever saw the treaties that your ancestors signed? Well, I'm gonna give you the whole treaty of the Chickasaw and the Choctaw Freedmen Treaty that got them land, oil, diamonds, and everything else they're owed. But before I show you something else, right? If you'd like to donate $1 for this treaty, that you need to put in a safe place. But what I'm going to do, right? What I'm going to do before I show you this other secret real quick, I'm going to make another post in photo form, and you can download it without my head, anything. You can just literally download it and put it in your Google Drive or a safe place. Then when you get a chance to read it, you see how much money that you and your ancestors are owed. Now here go another big secret. Man, come on, man. Donate $1, man. This is powerful. Donate $1, man. But who all went on the Trail of Tears? The Cherokee, the Moors, the Olmecs. Wait, I thought they was in Mexico. Yeah, the Olmecs and the Seminoles, the Yamasee are your 5 civilized tribes. It's called Proclamation 7500. Come on, man. Go ahead and donate $1. Please go and donate $1. But make sure you keep this in the same place, that treaty, because they're going to erase it. And plus, you got to pay for these treaties. They just not going to give it to you. So the next post I'm going to make, you can download all the pages and man, get in here, man.
Okay, so we connected the dots. The title of this one is "Let Me Show You Something." I know we got the little cartoon of Fire Marshal Bill and everything. That's cool, but we connecting the dots. We putting these things together. All right.
Man, get in here. So, Department of Interior, you thought you was going to hide this document? Huh? You thought you was going to hide this document? And you made sure you buried it and called it page 41? You thought we wasn't going to find it, but yeah, we did. Now, for the people who call us crazy, this document, you can go and take a screenshot. This document goes into great details. And as you can see right here, Indians were classified as black. You see it, right? Classified as black, right? You can see the Department of Interior, right? But matter of fact, take one more screenshot. Now, what's special about this document, it talks about so many states, right? Including Carolina, New York, right? Maryland, right? Talks about a lot of states. North Carolina, you feel me? Ohio, right? And it even talks about the church, right? How we founded towns, right? How we founded towns that's literally ours and taken over by the United States Department of Interior War Department, right? So let me ask you a question. Where's these Native Americans we supposed to be under? Because at this time, they was on reservations. But right here, we're not on reservations and we still being reclassified, right? Being reclassified as Negro and we Indians. But not only that, they went back 1966 and 1971, right? To make sure that y'all can talk about it and to keep us or reclassify us from black to African American. Did you catch that? This document is proof. This is proof that your civil rights leaders and your church leaders ain't for you. They not for you, or they never for me, they not for us. Anytime you have this document, where your civil rights leaders at? Don't they supposed to be fighting for you? Right? All secrets shall be revealed. This is an important document. Don't lose it. Take a screenshot again. And if you'd like to donate $1, I greatly appreciate it.
Please don't scroll. I just want.
Now, these next few is just people that do amazing things and they making stuff and they still doing it. I just thought these were very interesting and amazing to me.
Scroll.
Now that's Boss Hog right there. All right, fair use. I don't know if this is true or not. Don't know if this is true or not. But I'm going to play it anyway.
12. The President's Security and Exchange Commission ruled that PepsiCo's use of aborted fetal human tissue remains in their research and development agreement with Cinemix to produce flavor enhancements falls under ordinary business operations. So we're going to talk about a list of products. You should not be consuming these products. All soft drinks and Pepsi. All drinks Sierra Mist. All drinks Mountain Dew. All in-beer mug root beer and Pepsi. Drinks of no fear. Ocean Spray. Seattle's Best Coffee. All brands of energy drinks. All brands. Aquafina water. Double Shot. Some of the
Yeah. Yeah.
This root here grows just like, he grows like a man, but this was on the side of the house. This is poke sack. It had the arms and had the legs and everything. And this way it grew. Now my mama lived and drank some this, and I have got it and boiled it. And she drank the juice, and I'd get all the meat I could and make her pancake. This is Johnson weed. It's a hard asthma. You can smoke it for the asthma. I've got it for people, white people, and dried and crumbled too, and put in a box and sun them from the smoke off in the pipe. Real old. Help them get the breath. Help them. Now that's that root, and this is purple when it get right. Purple. I made wine for what kind of rheumatism, where they say the bursitis and the arthritis to the new radley and the rheumatism and the rheumatic rheumatism. There still was three things where they say the arthritis and the neuritis and the bursitis. Same thing, but it's what's it called? You're full of cold and more full of diseases than you would be. You go naked and go bareheaded and all that, and them folks, they wore the shoes and the stockings. Now this here, well, that's turtle oil, turtle. You know what a turtle is, don't you? Well, that's oil out of him. That's the fat from him. That's rheumatism, and that's what they used way back in them days. They were just glad to get a turtle, get the fat, and the son tries it up. The oil weed. That's what they did.
Yeah, it's good work.
So Donald Trump signed an executive order ending birthright citizenship. And I was like, wow, you can fucking do that? Like, how do you can change law? No, that is the law. Get ready for some fucking history. Guess what I did? I got in this little fucking box we got right here. Yeah, all the information in the world. And this is why history is important. First, let's cover the 14th Amendment. What was the 14th Amendment? That gave citizenship to the freed slaves' children that were born here in the U.S. That's what that was for. And guess what? The Supreme Court has ruled, and Congress has even acted to expand the 14th Amendment several times. Never does it cover illegals having kids here. Let me run through it for you. In 1868, they passed the 14th. In 1884, some Chinese people, they got some kids here. And the Supreme Court rules very clear. If you are not in the United States legally, your kids are not U.S. citizens. Oh, imagine that. 1898, they clarify it again. Chinese citizens again. Got green cards. They're here legally. The Supreme Court says, yeah, if you are in the U.S. and you're not a U.S. citizen, but you are here legally, guess what? Your kids are citizens. All spelled out in the Supreme Court. That's the law. 1917, Congress is like, dude, we need more people for this fucking war. We need to make Indians and Puerto Ricans U.S. citizens. So that's what they did. They did that. Made Puerto Rican citizens, and Congress did that. Congress did it. 1917, Puerto Ricans become U.S. citizens. 1924, all Indians become U.S. citizens. How in the fuck then, you ask, did these goddamn illegals start having anchor babies? It's the crooked fuck LBJ. And as we're all about to find out, as the information keeps piddling out about JFK's assassination, LBJ had a fucking hand in setting that up. Hired Mac Wallace. Look that guy up. Mac Wallace. Yep. And see who's around him in his circle in Texas. It's next president as well. LBJ, giant piece of shit. Somewhere in his term, his State Department just starts handing out U.S. birth certificates to anybody who's born in the U.S. They just did it. No act of Congress. No fucking nothing. The fucking sneaky fuck snake Democrats have been doing this shit since we took their fucking slaves away in 1863. Like, this shit is out of fucking hand. Donald Trump fucking slaying it over here, bringing us back to this, the fucking republic. We are not a democracy. We are a republic. Bringing it around to the whole solution. Guess who else was a republic? Rome. Guess who else ran into the same problem? Rome. Guess what they did? They created the plebs. They had the plebs and the citizens. The plebs, they had all the fucking access to every.
See, that's why I play it in this order. So what he is saying is that anchor babies have been illegal since 1884 per the Supreme Court. And then he says LBJ during that time of the 1960s was just giving anybody that came in here visas and birth certificates and all this type of thing. Why? That's why I played all these things in order. So I played the brother, played the sister. This is the thing. Like, what was these people? Why was the United States government bringing these people over here during that time? See, that other person's things, and when you utilize that word persons get real tricky. It allows them to manipulate the law to fit them. That's why I keep telling you about plenary powers and administrative actions that are done through Congress. Right? If you saw exactly what the Ways and Means was supposed to be about, the Ways and Means is only supposed to tax citizens and foreign companies and distribute funds out in regards to Article 1, Section 8, which is the Commerce Clause. Everything done in commerce, they regulate those things. The Congress, you could say they're kind of like the ones that keep the books. So legislative is like making sure the books is right. Okay? But what this guy might not understand is that he falls into that same category.
I know you said earlier that real ID counts, but I'm holding the 29 pages of the same act. It does not.
Can you provide more context of how you think that the Save America?
I'm going to skip this one for time purposes. This is the one.
Ilhan Omar and what the Justice Department.
I'm going to skip that one. This is the one.
I just had a question for the rank.
I want to see if you guys can catch this. I'm going to play it 3 times. I'm going to see if you guys can catch it. I'm going to see if you guys catch what's actually being said in this.
Member, I've heard other people say this, but I heard him say it this morning that the Save America Act will disenfranchise millions of Americans. The legislation requires proof of American citizenship and a photo ID to vote. So I don't understand how it could disenfranchise millions of Americans, and maybe he would explain.
I'm happy to. Thank you for that question, because I think all of us should be aware of the fact of what is required by this act when it comes to registering to vote. You have to present identification, correct? But your driver's license, which most people use in the course of business every single day, is not acceptable. What is acceptable is a passport. 50% of Americans do not have a passport. Those who want to obtain it so they can vote will pay $186 and wait 3 or 4 weeks for that to happen. Secondly, you can use a birth certificate. But any person who has changed their name as a result of a marriage or a hyphenated the relationship has to find not only their birth certificate, but some correction of it to prove that they're eligible to register to vote. It's estimated that 9% of the voters in America do not have the identification required by this bill. It means ultimately that those people will not be voting. And I think that is the ultimate goal of this administration.
I just had a question for the ranking member. I've heard other people say this, but I heard him say it this morning that the Save America Act will disenfranchise millions of Americans. The legislation requires proof of American citizenship and a photo ID to vote. So I don't understand how it could disenfranchise millions of Americans, and maybe he would explain.
I'm happy to. Thank you for that question, because I think all of us should be aware of the fact of what is required by this act when it comes to registering to vote. You have to present identification, correct? But your driver's license, which most people use in the course of business every single day, is not acceptable. What is acceptable is a passport. 50% of Americans do not have a passport. Those who want to obtain it so they can vote will pay $186 and wait 3 or 4 weeks for that to happen. Secondly, you can use a birth certificate, but any person who has changed their name as a result of a marriage or a hyphenated relationship has to find not only their birth certificate, but some correction of it to prove that they're eligible to register to vote. It's estimated that 9% of the voters in America do not have the identification required by this bill. It means ultimately that those people will not be voting. And I think that is the ultimate goal of this administration.
I just had a question for the ranking member. I've heard other people say this, but I heard him say it this morning that the Save America Act will disenfranchise millions of Americans. The legislation requires proof of American citizenship and a photo ID to vote. So I don't understand how it could disenfranchise millions of Americans, and maybe he would explain.
I'm happy to. Thank you for that question, because I think all of us should be aware of the fact of what is required by this act when it comes to registering to vote. You have to present identification, correct? But your driver's license, which most people use in the course of business every single day, is not acceptable.
Check.
What is acceptable is a passport.
Check.
50% of Americans do not have a passport. Those who
Check.
want to obtain it so they can vote will pay $186 and wait 3 or 4 weeks for that to happen. Secondly, you can use a birth certificate, but any person
Check.
who has changed their name as a result of a marriage or a hyphenated relationship
Check.
has to find not only their birth certificate, but some correction of it to prove that they're eligible to register to vote. It's estimated that 9% of the voters in America do not have the identification required by this bill. It means ultimately that those people will not be voting. And I think that is the ultimate goal of this administration.
I just had a
Okay. So here's to all these people. We was talking about the traffic stuff last time. J-Dub, Nadi, Rich, we was talking about that. Anybody else that was here on Thursday, we was talking about giving these examples, right? So people are telling you what is considered to be identification. Now, the other thing they didn't mention in there was your Social Security card and your Social Security number. That is not identification. The guy said right there what is considered to be identification. More importantly, it's identification to vote. That's one of them. Now, other circumstances, if they're saying that's identification, that means that those instruments are identification and can be used in any form or fashion. That's my own addition to it. Let's call it an addendum. All right? All right.
Forest is the home of many great communities, not the least of which is the very consequential, very important, very powerful community of Greenwood in the north part of Tulsa. That is part of the Cherokee Nation. There are a great many communities that have their roots along this civil rights trail. But one of the things that I'm struck by is that I would not be here as an elected chief of the Cherokee Nation if it were not for the reforms of the 1970s when the United States of America was compelled because of advocacy and leadership to take its boot off the necks of the tribes like the Cherokee Nation and let us govern ourselves. That happened about 50 years ago.
In the same sentence, he says that. But he says that he would not be in the Cherokee if it wasn't for the changes made in the 1970s. Now, understand 100 years ago, 100 plus years ago, from 1970, it means 1860s and 70s. And even prior to that, there were Cherokee nations.
They forgot.
But that happened not coincidentally with the civil rights movement in this country. It happened consequently in relationship with that civil rights movement. People in this country deciding that those who live in the shadows, those whose stories have been suppressed, those who have been economically suppressed, socially suppressed, lifting one group up tended to lift all of us up. And so it's not absolutely coincidental. It's consequential.
So it's not coincidental, it's consequential. So the civil rights movement, what he's saying, let me translate that for you. The civil rights movement allowed these people to come in because this is where you get into your persons, right? This is where they started adding people in order to, I guess, water down the actual monies and all the royalties and residuals that the actual American Indian nations, Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Seminole, Muskogee, and all of them, Caddo, all these different groups. You see what I'm saying? So that's where he's talking, but under the circumstance, you got people clapping, but he's talking over their head. He's saying, if these didn't happen, I wouldn't be up here talking. That's what he's saying. I would not be up here talking if it was not for that. Now, want to get those things out the way. Okay, I want to get those things out the way because I want to talk about some of these circumstances that we're dealing with. And like I said, I'm going to keep showing you different ways in order to give you guys the proper perspective on what's actually taking place. Now, we're going to give you another example, right? We're going to do our Solomon Sir Jones clip. We're just going to show some so you guys can actually see exactly what was actually taking place in the 20th century, 1920s. See what I'm saying? So we just gonna go through these things because you guys need to kind of understand the circumstances that we're dealing with. So as we're looking right here, that says Dunbar Consolidated High School, right? Faculty and students, Wellston, Oklahoma, 1927, March 4. So we're just taking a moment of silence to actually show what was actually taking place at that time. I mean, looking nice and crispy, you know. Man got his guitar. I mean, look at that building. It's brick. That's built, windows, everything. You go, got the automobiles, got everything jumping off here. Look at the masonry in there. Good brick masonry. So there you go. Now, when we're dealing with the issues at hand, we got to really know what was taking place at that time. Business being done, things being changed, but from at this point in time, we know that these things weren't done based on an agreement to have it be done in this form of fashion. Right? That's what I say. Now, when you're dealing with a lot of the different aspects of things that we have going on in our lives today, how is it possible to be able to get any type of remedy? You have to bring the information forward with proof. Right? You got to bring it forward with proof. Now, I'm going to show you this court case, right? I had some other things I wanted to show, but I don't think it's going to fit right now. I want to bring this case up right here. Okay? This is Johnson and Graham's lessee versus McIntosh. Okay, so here's the primary holding. Land transfers from Native Americans to private individuals are void. When a tract of land has been acquired through conquest, and the property of most people who live there arise from the conquest. The people who have been conquered have a right to live on the land, but cannot transfer title to the land. The action for ejectment was based on a land dispute after Thomas Johnson, a Supreme Court justice, bought land from Native Americans and Piankashaw tribe. In the Piankashaw tribe, his descendants inherited the land after Johnson's death and leased it to individuals who brought the action against William McIntosh. The federal government had given McIntosh a land patent to allegedly the same land, although in reality, it appears that the properties were actually separate. The properties thus brought this litigation in order to obtain a judgment on priority rights to property more generally. Ruling that the Native American tribe did not have the right to convey the land, the federal district court held that Johnson's initial purchase and the chain of title stemming from it were invalid. In a unanimous opinion, Marshall used historical analysis to find that only the government, rather than the Native American tribes, held title to the land. He argued that the patterns of discovery during the European colonization of the New World meant that each European nation gained sovereignty and also title over the land that it discovered. This trumped the right of occupancy of the Native American tribes, at least with regard to the specific colonizing power. In the situation of the U.S., this right belonged to the British when they first acquired colonies. The federal government then inherited the right from Great Britain after the American Revolution. Native Americans cannot sell their land except to the federal government. Right? All right, so let's make sense of this. Let's start from the back, from the end all the way to the front. Native Americans cannot sell their land except to the federal government. Why is that? That's a treaty. That's your treaty. And that has been stapled in their articles, right? In their articles, right? Article 1, Section 8, the Commerce Clause, which is dealing with the Indians. Okay, so you can't sell them to private individuals. Why can't you sell them to private individuals? Because those private individuals are United States citizens. And therefore, under the jurisdiction of the United States, meaning that the indigenous nations or the people that have land are not subject to the United States. So you cannot have any side deals with any private individuals. That's meaning companies as well. So you say private individuals. Okay? So now, when you have this particular Supreme Court ruling, people might think that the United States government has sovereignty and power over the indigenous nations and the indigenous people. No, they don't. You see, they're using this Native American tribes. That is a form of usurpation from your natural status in order to allow it to function a certain type of way and have some type of authority, meaning the United States government having authority over the indigenous people. We can sell it to whoever we want to, but in the agreement, we could not do any business with any independent or private entities. So even you think it's an individual, that doesn't mean that it's just a man or a woman or family or whatever. This is dealing with companies, private companies. Is when you translate it in, when you translate it in that way, you can actually get a better understanding of what they was talking about. What they were talking about was you can't sell land to private individuals. You must do business with us. We then sell lands or parcel out these lands to our citizens. And if there's anybody that's foreign coming up in here, they got to go through us to get to y'all. Y'all meaning the indigenous people, the indigenous nations, and their land. Now, the other thing that you'll see right here going up, it says that in the situation of the U.S., this right belonged to the British when they first acquired colonies. So if you say the U.S., the right belonged to the British when they first acquired colonies. So when you acquire something, it's an acquisition. So you're doing an acquisition. So that means in these colonies, which are companies, and I'm going to show you exactly what a colony is. Then that means that because they're actually stating right here, right? We're saying right here. So the federal government then inherited the right from Great Britain after the American Revolution. You remember when I spoke about, but if you didn't, I actually spoke about this on multiple occasions, that the United States government were subject to the British Crown. We all know that. And if you don't, they were subject to the British Crown. The American Revolution was a revolution to get from up under the British and then set up their own agreements and treaties on their own as a potential sovereign with the indigenous nations. So when you're dealing with that particular thing under the agreement, right? So we just deal with the Treaty of New York. Just to say the Treaty of New York that dealt with the Upper and Lower Creek and the Seminoles. Is George Washington said specifically that we are going to do commerce for the indigenous nations, and our citizens will be conducting that trade. But at no point in time, they could do anything outside of what the treaty holds and what they're regulated under our control. So when you see what's happening here, they want to make it seem as if the United States on the front end has some power over Native Americans. No, they are regulating their United States citizens. They are regulating sub-corporations that they might have, which are the colonies, doing private business and private deals with the indigenous nations without coming to them. Because in order for them to do business within the United States, the 13 United States initially, they had to be licensed, they had to be bonded, insured, so on and so forth. They had to be approved. They had to get them an LLC, a LP, or incorporated, or association, or S Corp, C Corp, whatever they had to do in order to do business in the United States. And then if they wanted to do business with the indigenous nations, they had to get approval from the United States. Now, when we go up here to the top part, right? When we go up here in a unanimous opinion, right? This is an opinion. Now, that opinion is by another word, interpretation of the law. And what law are they reading? They're not talking about that. They're not talking about in detail what Justice Marshall is trying to interpret to give his opinion. Because when you give an opinion, it always can be changed or overruled based on another opinion. And if the new justices agree to that, they say, well, Justice Marshall and the people that ruled in that favor really misinterpreted the law. So these other people that dissented have more right and have a better interpretation of the law. So we're going to bring that back up to talk about it. So Marshall used historical analysis to, right? So he used historical analysis. So that means this wasn't the first time they had this conversation. To find that only the government, rather than the Native American tribes, held title to the land. Now, historical analysis to find that only the government, rather than the Native American tribes, they're using these words, Native American tribes. Now, in the 1830s, Native American did not exist unless you're dealing with the Native American Party. That was a party, like Democratic Party. Held title to the land. Now, in so many words, right? Because we're dealing with the 13 United States. We're only dealing with the colony. We're dealing with the United States. We're not dealing with the whole mass of North America. We're only dealing with the United States as it is in any of the colonies, companies, or states at that time that joined the Union outside of the 13 colonies. Because this is 1823. This is 33 years after 1790. Right? Because 1790 is when you have your first alleged federal census, where they started counting people. All right, so now, since we're dealing with the 13 United States, and it says only the government, rather than the Native American tribes, held title to the land. It's the reason why I talk about Indian country and ceding land. When you're talking about holding title to the land is colorable title. It's not absolute title. These are lands granted to the United States in order for them to conduct their business with the indigenous nations. And as we shown, and even in these little quick clips that I'm showing of these people reading off this stuff, it's showing that we owed a lot of money. The indigenous people, let's take the we out of it. The indigenous people on this land, whoever they were at that time, are owed a lot of money. And they was actually given the money, and somehow the shit disappeared. It's where them persons come in. This is why I started off by reading off these definitions. So go back and check some of these things out. But they held title to the land. There's conveyances. I mean, and you can look up Aboriginal title in the United States on Wikipedia. You go down there and show you a picture of a chief, a Narragansett chief, conveying title over to some person. But we don't know who he is. So in this last part, it says he argued that the patterns of discovery during the European colonization of the New World meant that each European nation gained sovereignty and also title over the land that it discovered. Now, that's an absolute misinterpretation. See, this is your plenary actions that they got going on right now. They're saying, he's saying, Justice Marshall is saying, because this is 1823. So he's got to go back 200 plus years. He's saying historical, right? He's saying historical, use historical analysis in his opinion, right? And he's using the word Native American tribes, if it's actually saying that in the actual, authenticated document. So he's saying he argued that this is Justice Marshall. He argued that the patterns of discovery, and you remember when I did the ChatGPT thing, and I just asked them random questions. The first one, and we talked about the doctrine of discovery, right? So the patterns of discovery during the European colonization of the New World, meant that each European nation, you see that? Each. Now, European colonization of the New World, that's his opinion. These European nations are calling it later on, because it wasn't that during that time, because I read off specifically during that time that there were indigenous nations, empires here that had treaties and agreements with them to come over here and do business, and at the same time do that business because they had a lot of people that they were shipping out that they just conquered, i.e. the Spanish Inquisition. So come on, you come over here and set up your shop over here. We got these spots set up just for you. You could be right over here. Meant that each European nation gained sovereignty over the land that it discovered. So basically what he is saying, and what Justice Marshall is saying, that their doctrine of discovery, this is a doctrine. There is a doctrine. That is an opinion. Doctrine, opinion, doctrine. How we're interpreting things here. It says right there, based on this, they had title over the land that it discovered. But no, that's not how it went. How it went was, like I just mentioned, and then on top of that, they were ceded land, granted land, and given permission to come over here to do business based on the fact that now we want to do business with you based on what we're doing business over there. So basically, you guys looking for help to come over here, just like the United States. Then they said at the end, it said the United States did what? What did the United States? The United States inherited, or what they call the federal government, inherited. But the federal government wasn't a federal government at that time. It was not a federal government until 1933. Unless there was something else going on that the indigenous nations didn't know nothing about. They was running some little shadow play, and they had all these dummy corporations that was their front. So they inherited the federal government. Now there's good things in here that pretty much give you an idea in plain language instead of the theatrical stuff that you hear on the History Channel and in the media and all these different, PBS and what they're saying, and make this so dramatic and, just romantic, novelistic in his nature. The federal government, or the United States, then inherit the right from Great Britain after the American Revolution. So if the United States then inherit the right, then what is he talking about up here? See, he's double talking. The federal government then inherit the right from Great Britain after the American Revolution. What right did they inherit? They inherited this. The doctrine of discovery. So everything that they said that they gained, the European nation, sovereignty and title over the land that they're saying that the European discovered. But the Europeans won't tell you that. They'll tell you that's a bunch of crock. We never did that. This was the United States government and their proxies within the United States that started making all these doctrines and all these different things in order to change the volume of how things were actually set up. Right? So this is how you interpret. This is like a cheap way of interpreting the language of what these people are saying. He double talked himself a bunch of times here. Okay. So case commentary. This created a distinction between the right of occupancy and the right of ownership that persists in U.S. jurisprudence concerning Native American lands. So if the 13 United States started off as 13 United States and colonies that only dealt with a specific type, well, not type, a specific location and, square footage of area. And basically what they're saying that whatever the United States has in its possession is considered to be Indian territory, Indian country, Indian land. So if it's still considered to be Indian land, then why are they saying they own it? See, this is where you get to the place where when you get to talk about misclassification, suspect classification, and doing things, what in court it will be considered ex parte. Ex parte is pretty much doing things in rem. These Latin terms meaning that you're doing it behind the scenes without the actual party being there to listen and being able to object. So if you're just doing it, that means that it's just being done with no objection. So they can get it done. Then it says economists have pointed out that limiting the right to purchase Native American land to the federal government allows it to be sold at the lowest possible prices because there is no competition. Now, remember, in this case right here, right, this Hart versus Harmon, right? This is dealing with, when we go back down, this is in Oklahoma. This is in Oklahoma, 1930, Supreme Court of Oklahoma, 1930. All right. We're going to go down here. We're going to make sure you understand what this is. This is the Conservative Loan Company of Shawnee, Oklahoma. People say, well, that was a foreign company over there doing business. No, this was a Shawnee loan company. Now, when we go down here, give me a second. Okay, and right here, says right here, that in connection. Okay, so here we go. Let's read this whole thing. Plaintiff in his petition alleges in substance that he, being the owner of the land, secured a loan of $6,000 thereon from or through the Conservative Loan Company. Now, do the math. $6,000 and hit your inflation thing and see what 6,000 was in 1930 versus what $6,000 is today. So this guy right here. Now, that he executed a first mortgage on the land and said some, and for their services in procuring a loan, plaintiff gave 4 notes in the sum of $300 each. And to secure same, executed a second mortgage on the land that he was unable to pay said notes, and that suit was brought on the 4 $300 notes and to foreclose on the second mortgage, resulted in a sale of land on July 21st, 1924. To one LD Straight, agent for the loan company, subject to the said first mortgage, that at the time of said sale, he had an agreement with Straight at the loan company that if he, plaintiff, would pay such judgment in full with all costs, he would convey said land back to plaintiff, that in connection therewith he employed defendant E.G. Hart, this is the plaintiff, that in connection employed defendant E.G. Hart as his attorney to aid and advise him in carrying out said agreement. So now when we get down here to the bottom, see, this is where the United States government is breaching their fiduciary duties. Right. Number 25 says that it thus appears that all times the plaintiff relied upon his right to pay the judgment indebtedness and have the land reconveyed to him. There is a further contention made that plaintiff cannot recover for the reason that he was guilty of lashes, and that after defendant Hart notified him that he had purchased the land and requested plaintiff to reimburse him, therefore he failed to do for an unreasonable length of time. With this contention, we cannot agree. That's what the justice is saying. We cannot agree for the reason that the demands made and relied on were under a separate agreement which defendant Hart claimed to have had with plaintiff, and to which plaintiff testified he did not agree. In addition, there too, plaintiff had already substantially completed arrangements with one Gahagan to pay off the indebtedness and all liens against the land for an oil and gas lease. So he's paying them in oil and gas and a lease. So those notes that he's given is actually the lease that he has with these people that he's allowing to drill and work on his land. Thereon, together with the royalties on a part thereof. As soon as Hart learned that the deal was likely to go through, he promptly deeded the land to defendant Whitney. When he did so, he well knew that plaintiff was relying upon his original agreement to save the land to himself. When his efforts were about to succeed, defendant Hart, in violation of his trust, deeded the land to Whitney, and Whitney almost immediately executed an oil and gas lease on a part thereof to defendant Cozart. It's a hot potato. That's why you see any foreclosure. That's a hot potato. That thing is moving immediately. So that means they basically had a full understanding of what was going on. So why would he do that so fast and not have and if he knew everything was done above board? But the most important thing, he violated his trust. So right there, anybody that's working up under the United States, and this is why the United States said what they said in this situation, that, right? So under this circumstances, where it's saying right here, right? What it's saying right here, right? That only the government, rather than the Native American tribes, held title to the land. And that Native Americans could not sell to private individuals. right? So right here, tract of land has been acquired through conquest, and the property of most people who live there arise from the conquest. The people who have been conquered have a right to live on the land, but cannot transfer title to the land. Cannot transfer title to the land. So under the circumstances, and I know I didn't show you guys this, but let me pull it back up. Let me pull it back up because I wanted to get the whole window up here. Get the whole window up here. Is that right here? In violating what I was reading to you, this is what I was reading to you. I only held it on that one screen. But in reading that to you, right here, this is what is actually going on. That when this attorney was doing what he was doing, the Supreme Court overruled that because he had a trust relationship. And if that attorney has a trust relationship, that means he is licensed through the United States or through the British Accredited Registry, and also has a fiduciary duty to the indigenous people, or anybody else for that matter. In order to do business with them, they have to have an agreement with the United States. So, and it says right here, the record shows that at all times, plaintiff remained in possession of the land and was in good faith asserting his interest therein, and that the finding of the trial court that defendant Whitney and defendant Kozar were not innocent purchasers is fully sustained by the records. So the language of what we have in front of us is something that is very, very, very interesting. Now, I'm going to go to this definition right here. Now, this is, if you guys don't know, this is the Clarendon Dictionary, right? And this dictionary is 1894. Now, this is 1894. We're going to go straight here. We're going to go straight here. We're going to go to India. Right here. Right there. Indian. Now, what I'm trying to share to people is that these words are put together. But if you actually see the word is broken up. Indian. Right? Now it says A, pertaining to India, or I'm gonna beat y'all in the head with this or to the Aborigines of North America. Noun, native of India, semicolon, and Aboriginal American. An Aboriginal American. You're not going to tell me that American and America did not exist until Europeans came over here. You're not going to do that. You're not going to say that India is somewhere else. You're not going to do that either, because it says or. Certain people called it India. Certain people maybe called it America. Depending on where you at, depending on what language you spoke. Now, what we're going to also do is see in 1894, we can find native. Now, I'm looking at this right along with you. M-N-O, okay. O. All right, here we go. Now, native. This says produce. This is the A, which I would say this is the adjective. Produced by nature. By nature. Inborn. Y'all can help me with that. Pertaining to the place of one's birth. One born in any place. All right, so in brackets, what you see right here, circumstances of birth. So native is only dealing with birth. Okay? Now this is 1894. So if 1894, an Indian is an Aboriginal American, right? And then a native only dealing with circumstances of birth, where you could be a native, right? Let's see what an Aboriginal is. Let's see here. Okay, well, I'm just right here, right over here, right over here, right? You see Abba, A-B-B-A. Okay, the noun is father. Abba. Abba. Father, and that's in Chaldee. Now, what is why is Chaldee language in the Clarendon dictionary? Now let's go back to the beginning. This is 15. Okay, come back. 15. Let's lower this down a little bit. Okay, the Clarendon Dictionary, concise handbook of the English language in orthography or orthography, pronunciation, and definitions. Pronunciation, orthography, and definitions for school, home, and business use by William Hand Brown, professor of English literature, Johns Hopkins University. This is not from another country. This is in America, Jack. Okay? So let's get back to 15. Right here. Chaldee. I'm just saying. Now let's go over here to Aboriginal. Okay. So we know, we just read off what an Indian is. Just read off what an Indian is. Okay. Aboriginal. Adjective, primitive, earliest, The NAL, inhabitants. So you have the NAL is referring to, it's kind of like your noun, your description, people. What would they be considered? Inhabitants. So you have primitive inhabitants, earliest inhabitants. Got me? All right. The next one is aborigines. Noun, plural. O-R-I-G-I. And then it has a hyphen. So that's original. O-R-I-G-I. So you have O-R-I-G-I. You have ab in front. So if we look at Abba, which says father, then you could pretty much say the Ab, Ba, or you just say Ab is first, the father, the creation, the one that planted the seed. O-R-I-G-I is in the middle. The N-E-S is plural. So it says noun, plural. So when you get into SF 1, so when you look up SF 181, ethnicity and race identification, you come right down here. It says right here, American Indian or Alaska Native. We can look at all of them. Right here, a person having origins, O-R-I-G-I, in any of the original peoples. You remember the NAL is inhabitants. Peoples of North and South America, including Central America. They got that in brackets. The reason why they got that in brackets is because this Hispanic and Latino thing where they try to carve that up. And who maintains tribal affiliation or community attachment. Asian, person having origins in any of the original peoples of the Far East, Southeast Asia, or the Indian subcontinent, including, for example, Cambodia, China, India, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Pakistan, the Philippine Islands, Thailand, and Vietnam. And you see it says specifically Indian subcontinent. Black or African American, a person having origins in any of the Black racial groups of Africa. Now, let's break this down. Original peoples, origins, Black racial groups. You see peoples in there? I don't. You're not focused on. No, he's not never going to be focused. He's conditioned, Nate. So he's going to learn over here because I'm going to show him these things, right? This is what it is. 42 USC. These are United States Code. U.S. Office of Personnel Management, Guide to Personnel Data Standards, right? Privacy Act statement. These are government documents. Government documents. Right? OPM.gov. OPM.gov. Take that up with them and tell them they lying. Now, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, a person have origins in any of the original peoples. White, a person have origins in any of the original peoples. Who ain't a people? These black racial groups. You are a group. You are a racial group at that. Now when we're dealing with this white standard here. So these original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. Now we're about to walk through this thing. I'm gonna show you, things change. Never, the plans always adjust at the time. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing about our people, man. We know how to adjust. Caucasian. Boom. Refers to a geographical diverse population from the Caucasus region, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Russia, or historically a racial classification. Caucasoid, used to describe people with European, hold on, let's make it right. That's white. Here we go. European, check. North African, check. Or Southwest Asian ancestry. Wait a minute. Okay, that's a Southeast Asia or the Indian subcontinent. I don't know if that's Southwest or whatever. I don't know. Could it be the Philippine Islands? I don't know. But check it out. Originating from the 18th, we got 2 out of 3 so far. So originated from 18th century anthropologists, anthropologist Johann Blumenbach's skull science, which deemed the region's people the most beautiful. All righty, most beautiful. The term is now considered an outdated social construct. Ain't that a blipper? I don't think the United States government and the Office of Personnel Management think so. It's out of date. Maybe in their pseudoscience memorandums and movements of how they change things around, maybe for them, but no, not the government, because check it out. This thing is still valid. And it has not been revised since 2005. Now, we got 2 out of 3. Can we get the third one? We looking for the third one. The term is now considered an outdated social construct despite its continued use in U.S. Census terminology for white, Middle Eastern, there we go, or North African individuals. Hey, check it out. Still here. Now, who is actually going against this, right? You got Johann Blumenbach. So what do we have going on here? So they're disagreeing with the United States, still attaching the word white to these individuals. But we can't even go any further. We can go further with the situation, because in order to get it down, we got to figure out who these people are, right? So we have Middle Eastern, North African, Southwest Asian, European. Okay. Now, on the circumstances, we can deal with something of the other, but dang it, I want to get back to, I gotta get my Black's Law forth. So we're gonna bring this up. We're gonna deal with some other categories here, because the one thing you got to know right now is what we just put in front of everybody's face right here. Right here. Everybody's a people. And just end off on that. I'm gonna take a quick commercial break. But everybody's a people except right here. Right here. People, groups, people. All right. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a quick break. Number one, my phone blowing up like crazy. And two, I got to bring up this Black's Law. All right, so here we go. Free white persons, right? So we have this right here. We got free white persons. What we're going to also do is we're going to come back over here because we got the Caucasian thing, right? We got the Caucasian race. And it says people considered white right here. We're going to make a tab on that. Right? You see right here, it says Turkey borders the Caucasus region. Okay. But what we're going to do right here, we're going to look up free persons 1790 Naturalization Act. All right. Now we're going to start right here. The Naturalization Act of 1790 was the first U.S. law to establish a uniform rule for citizenship, restricting naturalization to any free white person of good character who had resided in the U.S. for 2 years. It specifically excluded non-white people, indentured servants, and women, defining American citizenship by race. Now, this is what the act did. Free white person clause, the law explicitly limited naturalization to white individuals, effectively barring black people, Asians, indentured servants, and slaves from becoming citizens, according to Densho Encyclopedia. All right, let's look that up real quick. The Densho Encyclopedia. There it is. Boom. I'm just going to copy and paste these, put these in the link. You guys want to look them up later. Okay. Where we at here? Good character and oath. Citizenship for children. The law establishes that children under 21 of naturalized citizens reside in the U.S. were considered citizens. Natural born status. It affirmed that children of U.S. citizens born abroad were considered natural born citizens. Okay. So we got the Naturalization Act here. We got the articles right here, Section A, C4, early U.S. naturalization laws. We had all these different things, but we're going to get to the meat of it, which it is. And we got the Naturalization Act right here. We got the Wikipedia. We're not trying to get super scholarly on this. We're going to keep it basic, simple. If you guys got basic fundamental understanding and knowing, then we don't need to go to the extras. So the Naturalization Act, there's the first, it was Statute 103, enacted March 26, day after my birthday, was a law, 1790, of the United States Congress. That said the first uniform rules for the granting of United States citizenship by naturalization. Naturalization is the legal act or process by which a non-national of a country acquires the nationality of that country after birth. Okay, the law limited naturalization to free white persons of good character. This eliminated ambiguity on how to treat newcomers, given that free black people have been allowed citizenship at the state level in many states. In reading the Naturalization Act, the courts also associated whiteness with Christianity and Judaism. Remember that. And thus sometimes excluded Muslim immigrants from citizenship by classifying them as Asians until the decision ex parte Moriez recognized citizenship for a Saudi Muslim man in 1944. Remember I said about ex parte. Ex parte is something that is done without any type of jury. Let's just kind of say that. Congress modeled the act on the Plantation Act of 1740 of the British Parliament. So this Naturalization Act is something they adopted from this Plantation Act, 1740. 1740 or the Naturalization Act of 1740. So there was a Naturalization Act prior to 1790. Was an act of the Parliament of Great Britain that was officially titled an act for naturalizing such foreign Protestants and others therein mentioned as are settled or shall settle in any of His Majesty's colonies in America. This is where this case is, nope, not that one, this one gets interesting. Because right here, they're actually saying that the federal government then inherited the right from Great Britain after the American Revolution. So if they inherited something, that means they would actually have to be some type of beneficiary or heir to the throne or to all of these things that were created through Great Britain in their treaties and relationships in trade and commerce, in allyship with America or the indigenous nations. So that would actually tell you that under the circumstances, the United States of America never really repatriated expatriated or even separated itself from from Great Britain. This is what has always been the problem. Because if you notice that every president kissed the ring of the Queen of England, the Queen of Great Britain. All right, now, Caucasian race. I'm just going to go right here. I gave you the little quick AI thing. Let's go right here. This article is about the outdated race concept. So it's outdated. But at the same time, when dealing with blacks and African American, that's not outdated. And when we talk about white, these are peoples. So for the U.S. racial classification, white or Caucasian see white Americans. Now, Now, it says specifically right here what they consider it to be, since it's outdated. The Caucasian race was historically regarded as a biological taxon, which, depending on which of the historical race classifications was being used, usually included ancient and modern populations from Europe, Western Asia, North Africa, South Asia, and some parts of Central Asia, and the Horn of Africa. Now, where is the Horn of Africa? Somalia, Djibouti. I'm looking at Djibouti, Ethiopia, Eritrea, and parts and the partially recognized state of Somaliland. Although not common, some broader geopolitical definitions include parts or all of Kenya and the Sudan. So even they, in certain parts, would be considered to be Caucasian. See, this is why I was telling this individual that you really have a misunderstanding of these places. And even within some of these places of what these Caucasians will be came later. And some of these people that were there, these are these pyramid makers and these mound makers out there and these empires out there that actually came from somewhere else as well, but was the first pretty much ones to populate and to be original in that area. They're not all the same. Now, so we have that. Now, where's Central Asia? Asia Minor. That's all the stands. I just say the stands. All them names right there. All them stands. Okay. So you see that right there. Now, South Asia. So that's your Bangladesh. Bhutan, India, the Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, with Afghanistan. Okay? All right. South Asia. I just did that. North Africa. That is, let's check it out, is a region encompassing the northern portion of African continent. There is no singularly accepted scope for the region. However, it is sometimes defined as stretching from the Atlantic shores of the Western Sahara in the west to Egypt and Sudan's Red Sea coast in the east. Most common definitions for the region's boundaries include Algeria, Egypt, Libya, Morocco, Tunisia, and Western Sahara. Okay. Western Asia. This is the subregion consists of Anatolia, the Arabian Peninsula, Iran, Mesopotamia, the Armenian Highlands, the Levant, the island of Cyprus, the Sinai Peninsula, and the South Caucasus. Hold on, man. I'm getting a... Yeah. Yeah. Hey, don't worry. All y'all, whoever y'all do, don't worry about fact checking TV. That's rude word. He's a troll by nature. You know what I'm saying? He'll get a chance to come up here, or maybe he won't. All right. So let's get back to it. So we have these. Okay. So this is what we have. Don't block him. Oh, can't block him anywhere because he got a whatchamacallit anyway. Can't block him. All right, so don't worry about him, man. He get a chance to come up here. Now, check this out. Introduced in the 1780s by members of the Göttingen School of History, the term denoted one of three purported major races of humans, those three being Caucasoid, Mongoloid, and Negroid. In biological anthropology, Caucasoid has been used as an umbrella term for phenotypically similar groups from these different regions, with a focus on skeletal anatomy and especially cranial morphology without regard to skin tone. Now listen to this closely. Ancient and modern Caucasoid population were thus not exclusively white, but ranged in complexion from white skin to dark brown. Now, I'm going to read that again. Ancient and modern Caucasoid populations were thus not exclusively white, but ranged in complexion from white skin to dark brown. Now, this is, when you look at this right here, this 14, this takes you to that Blumenbach. Johann Blumenbach, 1865. Thomas Benshi, the Anthropological Treatise of Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. Okay, I'll put these links in there. But this is Wikipedia. See, these type of things you can use Wikipedia for. You can get the basis on things. Because anytime you're dealing with white things and certain things that is got the black man, the so-called black man under some inferior position, trust me, they're going to push it right here. But you'll be able to catch it. So not all Caucasoids, and even Judge Joe Brown said this too. He slipped that in. He said all Caucasoids are Caucasians. I think he was on, what's her name, the Real Dana's show. He said all Caucasians wasn't white. See what I'm saying? So if we get this, right, and we know this to be true, based on that definition, now this is them talking about Caucasian. See, this is why they want to get rid of that white. They said now it's an outdated race concept because once they couldn't keep pushing that white supremacist talk of everything that's power is white or considered to be pale skin, or pale skin is white and white is power and we're this and we're that, then they had to make it outdated so they could remix it. Okay, now let's go over here. Let's get back to our 1790 Naturalization Act. Let's get back to the topic. I had to take you all the way there so we can make this sense right here. Now, free white persons. Free white persons referred to in Naturalization Act as amended by Act July 14, 1870. Right? So this is the amended one. Okay, the first one, as we seen, was 1790. This was the amended one. Has meaning naturally given to it when first used in one stat 103, section 3, meaning all persons belonging to the European races, then commonly counted as white, meaning all persons belonging to the European races, meaning all persons belonging to the European races, then commonly counted as white, and their descendants, including such descendants in other countries to which they have immigrated. And that's with an E. You got E, you have I-M, right? Immigrated. So this is the natural one. One stat 103. This is what you consider to be a white person. That is these European races. Now, it includes all European Jews, more or less, intermix with peoples of Celtic, Scandinavian, Teutonic, Iberian, Latin, Greek, and Slavic descent. It includes Magyars, Lapps and Finns, and the Basques and Albanians. It includes the mixed Latin, Celtic, Iberian, and Moorish inhabitants of Spain and Portugal, the mixed Greek, Latin, Phoenician, and North African inhabitants of Sicily, and the mixed Slav and Tartar inhabitants of South Russia. It does not mean Caucasian race, Aryan race, or Indo-European races, nor the mixed Indo-European, Dravidian, Semitic, and Mongolian peoples who inhabited Persia. A Syrian of Asiatic birth and descent will not be entitled to become a naturalized citizen of the United States as being a free white person. Now, under the circumstances, what we have right here is this are the peoples that you're dealing with. But right here, it includes all European Jews. More or less intermixed with peoples of Celtic, Scandinavian, Teutonic, Iberian, Latin, Greek, and Slavic descent. Now, in this amendment, this is adding these other groups into the mix. And basically, these European Jews who actually ended up intermixing with all these different groups or otherwise. That's what you have right there. So, now we know who these groups are and what these groups are not. Okay? So, now let's deal with a couple things here. And I just want to give a brief intermission what we're going to talk about next time, right? This is the history book. This is like my infomercial. This is the history book of the dead. This history book of the dead is actually what is going to be presented is the fact that this book and these kings are actually talking about America where they want to be buried. What the heck is going on here? All right, come on, man. Now, for an example, come on, man. Son of a bitch. I don't know what's going on. All right, if you look up right here, I got right here that's highlighted. I got two lands. My goodness. going on, man? Now, if you look right here, this is talking about, behold, he is the writing reed of the God, the Lord of laws, who giveth forth the speech of wisdom and understanding, whose words have dominion over the two lands. All right. So right here, when you look up the two lands and you do a search, it's mentioned 40 times in here. People say, well, Africa has two lands. No, it don't. Africa is one landmass. You don't need to get over a great body of water to get anywhere from the southernmost point of Africa to the northernmost point of Europe, all over to Asia. There is not one piece of water that you necessarily have to cross. And if you do cross one, like the Mediterranean Sea, that's just the sea. That thing doesn't take you a quick hop, skip, and a jump to get over there. Okay? Now, what is considered to be two lands in regarding continents? Two lands regarding continents typically refers to the two major contiguous land masses that constitute most of the Earth's dry land: Eurasia, including Africa, and America, North and South America, are divided into distinct continents primarily by human convention, history, and culture rather than absolute physical separation. All right. So they're saying right here that the Americas, now this is how I look at it. The Americas, a single continuous landmass comprising North and South America. So you see it says North and South America. While often taught as two, they are physically connected at the Isthmus of Panama. So we know that they're always taught as two, even though in America is always considered to be one big thing. So it's all considered to be one big thing. But it is considered to be, in how they look at it, as two. So that's just how I want to look at these things. I'm gonna go into this a little bit. I'm gonna show some pictures. We're gonna do just some show and tell on that. Outside of that, let me show you guys something. Let me get it back up real quick. We're gonna do some show and tell. We're gonna do some show and tell. Passport info, tender info. I'm trying to fill out, bring up the proper one. Now, I'm going to show you guys something. Damn, that's too much. Yeesh. That's too much. Nope, I ain't showing that one either. Nope. Let me do it like this. I know. I'm like, wait a minute. I had one. I looked at it. I was like, I don't know about that one. All right. Let me show you guys something. Those of you guys that do taxes. Remember we talking about gift creation and all these different type of things, right? Donor, donee situation. Now, a lot of people, they do their taxes a certain type of way, right? But under the circumstances, you get into the now, what you guys got to understand, right? There's different classes, right? There's different tax classes. Nonetheless, what's going on, bro? What's up? Hey, look, you got different classes of different. You got different tax classes. Okay. You got different tax classes. You got different tax classes that you deal with, right? Now, if you look at this right here, this is your instruction forms for Form 709, right? This is your United States Gift and Generation Skipping Transfer Tax return. Okay? This, then you guys are going to have to fact check me on that. I can't really show you. All right. And this is your instructions for 706, which is United States Estate and Generation Skipping Transfer Tax Return. Now, I'm not licensed to be an educator on taxes. I'm just sharing some information just for informational purposes, okay? Now, on the circumstances, right, I'm just going to show you what your eyes might be skipping over. I'm going to show you this right here. We're going to pull up the form 1040. All right, we're going to compare these. Shit. All right. So this is your 1040 form, and we'll start here. right? What you need to pay attention to is the verbiage. If you look at the verbiage, if we're going to compare, this says your first name and initial. Then it says last name. Then it says home address, city, town, state, foreign country, your social security number, spouse's social security number. Now, this is called a U.S. individual income tax return. Okay, OMB numbers here, everything, right? It's 2017. Form 706, right? This is called United States Estate and Generation Skipping Transfer Tax Return. We are going to pull up those forms as well. Right? So this says United States Gift and Generation Skipping Transfer Tax Return. Now, box 1, it says donors, first name and middle initial, donors, last name, donors, social security number, address, legal residence, domicile, city or state, da 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 da. 7, citizenship. Now let's go back to the 1040. Your first name and initial, your social security number, home address. Okay? None of the other stuff that you've seen over here, right? No legal residence, citizenship, and this just says address. It says city or town. City, town, or post office. This says city or town, state or province, country. This says city, town, or post office, state and zip code. Now this says and zip or foreign postal code. Or. Okay. Now let's see what the 706 says. Decedent's first name. Decedent's. Year domicile established, city, town, or post office, name of executor, executor's social security number, so on and so forth. Now, this says United States. This says United States. This says U.S. People say, well, what's the difference? Well, it's a big difference. It is a big difference. So if you're looking closely, right? If you're looking closely, let me bring this up. Let me bring this up. Let me bring this up. Boom. Let me bring this one up. Boom. Gonna watch how fast I work. Watch how fast I work. Here's our donor. Here's our donor right here. Donor. The party conferring the power. I'm just going to highlight this. Donor. Donor. United States gift. Tax. Oh, man. Return. U.S. individual income tax return, United States estate tax return. Party conferring the power, the one who makes a gift, one who creates a trust. Donee, a power, the person to whom the settlor or donor of power of appointment gives such power to be exercised. Donor. Intention of creator or settlor. Entitlement to relief. Banks and banking, special or segregated deposits. Banks and banking, special or trust deposits. One who makes a trust. Special or trust deposits. Remember, here we go with that or. Now, give you some instructions here. Their instructions. I'm just going to read their instructions. Now, this right here is 2020. What's new? The annual gift exclusion for 2020 is $15,000. That means you can write off up to $15,000 on your tax return without it being scrutinized. For gifts made to spouses who are not U.S. citizens, the annual exclusion has increased to $157,000. See, non-residents, not citizens of the United States. Later. Right here. The basic credit amount for 2020 is $4,577,800. The applicable exclusion amount consists of the basic exclusion amount, $11,580,000 in 2020. And in the case of a surviving spouse, any unused exclusion amount of the last deceased spouse, so on and so forth. Now that goes the same for 706. This is 2019. Right here. Here we go. So, okay, yeah, this is 2020. So same thing right here. Same amount. So what I'm saying here is this. Status is everything. And you can actually express that status through these forms in order to get whatever recoupment that you need. You don't necessarily have to file a 1040. There's plenty of other ways to do it. You could do it through a 1041, 709, 706. It depending on what you know and how you can accomplish it. And you have the right accountant to be able to get that done for you. You see what I'm saying? Now, when you look at I was looking for it. It says in here somewhere that if you can prove I'm looking at the wrong. Okay, yeah. If you can prove that your credit amount, like I showed you, the $4,580,000 or four million something, if you can prove that that was used, you can reclaim that back. You can reclaim that back. You can reclaim that back. Because right here on the form, right, on the form, when you come all the way down here at the bottom, right, you got 18, 15, right? It says gift and generation skipping transfer taxes prepaid with extension of time to file. Line 19 says if line 18 is less than line 17, enter balance due. See instructions. If line 18 is greater than line 17, enter amount to be refunded. See? That right there is something to look into. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to go up here and we're going to go up to the screen. We're going to go up to the entire screen, right? And then we're going to look up what is the definition of prepaid taxes. What does prepaid taxes mean? No, I don't want that one. Prepaid taxes means all payments of taxes made in respect of the tax liability of any SPV or on prior closing to the closing date. Okay? All right. So this is understanding prepayment definition, types, and potential penalties. Prepayment refers to settling a debt before its due date, affecting various financial aspects like loan and expenses. I don't want that. I want taxes. Is prepaying taxes relating to Form 709. Prepaying taxes related to 709 generally refers to paying gift taxes in the same year the gift is made, rather than waiting until the April 15 deadline of the following year, or ensuring taxes are prepaid to avoid penalties when utilizing a lifetime exemption. Because the donor is responsible for paying gift tax, they may need to make payments if their taxable gifts for the year exceed the annual exclusion, which is $19,000 this year. I showed you prior, it was $15,000, and they have already exhausted their lifetime gift and estate tax exemption, which is now $13.99 million in 2025. So you have a $14 million minus 1 cent for as a lifetime gift and estate tax exemption. Now, where is this coming from? Now, this is how I usually express it, in my opinion, breaking it down. I showed you that the Social Security is an account. Showed you that 42 USC subsection 408, they talked about Social Security account number. Right. Also, it has numbers on the back. What in this 709 dealing with the gift, right? Because all taxes are everything is pretty much prepaid. There's no way of actually paying in real money in regards to 1933 HJR 192 and the suspension of the gold standard. So, in my hypothesis, everything is a tax. When I mean everything is a tax, I mean everything is a tax. So if it's a tax, right, and it's not being expressed as a tax, then basically it's considered a gift. If you're paying it anything but constitutional money, whatever you're doing is a gift. If you actually ask the Internal Revenue Service, you ask the bank when they're levying your things, or you asking employees or anybody levying your accounts, they'll tell you it's a gift. And you can request a refund. Now, so in this way, I'm asked, so it's talking about avoid penalty, how to pay gift tax. It says electronic funds withdrawal. It's when e-filing form 709 using tax software. Direct pay. You can pay online. Elect federal tax payment system. See all this stuff online. Right? Don't need payment. Check this out. While the donor is responsible for paying the tax under special arrangements, the recipient, donee, may agree to pay the tax. Let me give you an example, right? Donee, one to whom a gift is made or a bequest given, one who is invested with a power of appointment, invested. So if I give you that money, guess what? You got to run it back. Or maybe I'm investing something where I need something to come back to me. Like I said, donee of power. Donor, party conferring the power. So under these situations, right, you got car loans, you got mortgages, you got all this credit and debt, and they're making money off of it, right? And that's just applying to it. You don't have to agree to it, but when you agree to it, you're actually accepting the volunteer in that transaction. And then it will be considered a donation. It's a gift. So under the circumstances, that what we have right there. So under that circumstance, what we have right here is that right there. So if you actually take some of these things, and I'm going to show you about this 709, if you can get it. Some people can get it. Certain people might not be able to get it. But when you get into the bottom parts right here, you have these different schedules. You got Schedule A, right? Look at what it's asking for, right? It's asking for name, address, relationship, if any, description of gift. If the gift was of securities, give QSIP number. If closely held entity, give EIN number. You gotta understand what those things mean. Donee's name and address, relationship to donor, if any, description of gift. If the gift was securities, gives QSIP number. So you have all these things that are going on. If you don't understand accounting and requesting the accounting, then you'll be able to get the information you need. Now, if that's not in the contract and they're making all this money on the back end of you, that can be considered a gift. Anything that you agreed upon that was not paid by any type of constitutional money is considered to be a gift and can be recovered or recouped 100%. But nobody does that because, they think it's wrecking the whole situation, messing up the whole shop. See what I'm saying? Yo, y'all know? All right. Sorry about that. But under the circumstances right there, this is how you can recoup that money. Now, as I said, nobody will try that. But when you look at some of these things, you can actually make this happen. This is what people don't understand, what the gift is and how to apply that to what we're doing today. Now, in dealing with acceptance, right? In dealing with acceptance is a powerful thing. Now, if you understand the technicalities of that, right? When you're looking at this right here, see, people think that the donor is actually going to be responsible for that, but this actually shows different. Now, under the circumstances, let me show you this one thing for all you renters. What is it, 16? Now, this will be considered a federal jurisdiction, but anybody facing eviction, this is what I ran across for myself, right? Just going through things. I deal with a lot of different people and different situations. Helps me study a little bit. Now, when you're dealing with definitions, right? We always deal with the person, right? A lot of people don't know that all of these applications that you're filling out are governed under consumer law. If they're asking you for your social security number to run your credit, it is a consumer credit transaction. Person, individual, corporation, or any other business organization. Consumer, a natural person. You seeing they're giving you the difference. A person is an individual, corporation, or any other business organization. A consumer is a natural person who seeks or acquires goods or services for personal, family, or household use. There's your difference. A person is in it for business purposes. 1040 individual tax return. A 1040 individual tax return automatically puts you in small business self-employed status. Don't care if you got a W-2 or not. But you can utilize the 1040 to your advantage because all of them have a Class 5 schedule or form in there. To me, and nobody has concurred that with me, but this is me talking. Schedule B is your Class 5, just like on your 1041, your Class 5 form is your Schedule K. your 1120, your corporations, S Corp, 1120S, and your other 1120 dealing with the C Corp is actually your class 5. They have a Schedule K for that too. 1065 is for LLCs, or I think it's LLPs as well, limited liability partnerships, limited liability corporations. Basically, what you have is the class 5 there. Now, class 5 is gift and estate tax. So there you go. 709, 706, gift and estate tax. W2, gift and estate tax. W4, gift and estate tax. 1098s, gift and estate tax. 1099s, gift and estate tax. Okay? So a person, individual, corporation, or any other business organization, a natural person who seeks or acquires goods or services for personal, family, or household use. Creditor, a person who, in the ordinary course of business, lends, purchase money, or finances the sale of goods or services to consumers on a deferred payment basis, provided such person is not acting for the purposes of a particular transaction in the capacity of a credit card user. All right. Now, here is your claims and defenses. Just using this for an example. Preservation of consumers' claims and defenses, unfair or deceptive acts or practices. Now, anybody that's renting, right? You're renting to live. Think about this. And as you're thinking about it, go look at your lease agreement or your rental agreement. See if it has anything in here. So, preservation of consumers' claims and defenses of unfair or deceptive acts or practices in connection with any sale or lease of goods or services to consumers in or affecting commerce, as commerce is defined in the Federal Trade Commission Act. It is an unfair or deceptive act or practice within the meaning of Section 5 of that act for a seller, directly or indirectly, to A, take or receive a consumer credit contract which fails to contain the following provision in at least 10-point boldface type. Notice, and this is what it has to say. Notice, any holder of this consumer credit contract is subject to all claims and defenses which the debtor could assert against the seller of goods or services obtained pursuant hereto or with the proceeds hereof. Recovery hereunder by the debtor shall not exceed amount paid by the debtor hereunder. Or B, except as full or partial payment for such sale or lease, the proceeds of any purchase money loan, right? This is dealing with a purchase money loan. So what is a purchase money loan? A cash advance which is received by a consumer in return for a finance charge. That's what most people get. It has to have this 10-point bold on it. It has to say that. Now go back and look at all your contracts and see if that's what it is. Because it says up here, consumer credit contract. Consumer credit contract. If it's under consumer credit, if they're checking your credit for anything, if they're using your social security number, which they are doing, if they're doing that, then it falls under this. This must be on there. So if they're trying to take you to a little unlawful detainer, landlord, tenant court, and they don't have this information in there, you can stall that thing out, move it to federal court and say, hey, this is a violation. This is a consumer credit contract. This falls under the Federal Trade Commission Act, the Truth in Lending Act, and all these other things because you're running my credit to check my credibility of something. You don't need my credit report to see if I can pay. You need information based on, do you have a job? You know what I'm saying? You don't even need to look at my bank account. All you need is my application. You need my W-2 forms, payment stubs from my job, phone number, so they can verify, does XYZ work here? Yep. Is this the amount? He showed me the amount that he's making. He's trying to rent. I need this, so on and so forth. No problem. I'll send you, I'll give you all that. Yep, I confirm all that stuff right now. Can't tell you over the phone. Send it to me in the mail, and I'll verify that. They don't do that. They ask for all this private information, and then at the same time, they're charging you for an application. You're paying for an application to fill out. All right? So just think about that. This is on the recorder. We're pretty much going to stop it right there. Under the circumstances, I wasn't even sharing that, was I? I wasn't even sharing. I wasn't even sharing that, was I? Oh, yep, I sure was. Okay, I was sharing it. All right, cool. Thought I was. All right, so under that circumstances, that's something to get to you. That's right, nonetheless. Facts, that's facts. The taxes are gifts when you understand the crafty language and the terms. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Reclassified. What's going on, brother? Big Dog Philly, what's happening? You know, I couldn't see the chat. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing my thing over here. Yep. So yeah, man, we're gonna call that a day right there. We're gonna leave it there. Oh, who's Fire Marshal Bill? I don't know. That's the first thing that came to my mind. I just put that up there. That's one of my favorite characters right there in Living Color. So I just said, you know, because I said, let me show you something. So that just stuck with me right there. But anyway, under the circumstances, man, you know, Nadia, I'll get you on the next one. And yeah, I'm missing a whole lot of calls and things like that. So I know people waiting on me. I know at this point in time, we'll bring something up. Like I said, hit me up in the hit me up in my email. I'm gonna put that in the chat. You know, send me some stuff. You want to build on that, and then we'll get busy. All right. You know, in circumstances, yeah, outside of that, man, I would say we're gonna play this action music, man. We out, man.
I'm the coach, coded in oak with a ghost loaded focus. Chrome in the coke, king with the cloak, smoking that hocus pocus. Infinite styles, pivot and pilot the mileage. I'm wild with the science. You see the line on my avatar, I drop pride. I devour the silence. Why you niggas steady lying? Got me laughing hard, satire and fraud. I fight a squad, wild get crossed when I'm foreign with all the guards. Author of art, carving a mark in the bark of the market at large. Target the sharks, hard on the spark, I'm sharp in the margin with bars. You rather bargain and dodge, I'd rather you come get your taxes done. Black suit, back room, facts in the stack, I'm relaxing the maximum. Get out of the pocket, the profit, the rocket, then I just might tax you punch. Bracket your funds, I'm stacking in chunks, reacting to ashes, you're begging a punch. Sometimes my community, hard-headed, scarred, dreading the lessons. I chart-headed, start spreading the message, embedded in pressure. Stop and living, I'm private with it, no corporate percentage, discharging debt with a pen stroke. You still don't notice the vision. I've been telling y'all you don't want to debate me. Weighty and ready, great with machetes, linguistically shredding the petty. Grab these 15 acres, landscape major, plan made paper, land patent stamped and sacred. Since my campaign greater, I ain't talking about Ice-T when I say that I can show you law and order. Court reporter, I saw the torture, contort the border. I eat the case, beat the state, leave a trace of the raw supporter. Briefcase aura, got your baby mama thinking that I'm a lawyer. Seminole Indian sentiment, militant on sovereign soil. Private enrollment, tribal component. I'm the boss if you trying to employ it.
Gosh, baby. Infinite.
Cool.
Yeah, I can get your land back. Yeah, I can discharge your debt. You gotta live by 5 principles before we just connect. Cause you could pose as my friend and then really be the threat. Like Brutus the Julius and the dudes that killed Malcolm X. Get your hand out of my pocket! Get your hand out of my pocket, nigga! Get your hands out of my pocket! Get your hand out! Brother, please. Y'all think getting remedies important. We make your lawyers lose their indemnity insurance. 10 chameleon, private, I don't wanna be popular. Grandpapa, Hulk Papa, Mama Black Mafia. Yeah, we them big owners holding rank. You call Rocket Lawyer, I call the owner of the bank. He in the private at the temple, like Ginobili in the paint. And we got 3 militaries, we might be rolling in some tanks. While you balancing with a check gross, going to work for debt notes. Overtime all your life paying mortgages, then you left broke. Damn. Shout out to Mayweather, who's obviously woke. He settled $18 million with a promissory note. I'm not your corporation's chattel, this world gotta be a joke. Blind leading the blind, so we never gonna see.
But I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to bed.
Everybody fake woke while the president is asleep. So I introvert myself cause it's evident to me. No one saves us but us. Buddha said it in BC. No title deeds are just reference the evidence to me. Man, you don't own it, you a tenant and it says it on your deed. You said with a sign but didn't take the time to even read. There's gotta be an idiocracy. They call you crazy as Kanye just for thinking logically. 2 million nationals backing us to stop who ain't stopping me. For instance, when Columbus came over here, they admitted Native Americans was already dead. But if our kids take a test on who discovered land we on, and you say Native Americans, you get the question wrong. Don't lie to us, you are just a colonist. Can't hide the truth. We got all the proof from the anthropologists. We know the system now, it's time to get up out of it. But it's our fault, because we fought so hard to be a part of it.
Now, I will never say that progress is being made. If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. You pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that's a blow made. And they haven't even begun to pull a knife out, much less try and heal the wound. They won't even admit the knife is there.
All people trying to burn us. How it's selling services with disclaimers, saying that it ain't for legal purposes. No cash, broke ass, internet burglars with temporary schemes and a lot of fraudulent dreams. Yeah, we got our own embassy, we got our own consulate, foreign administrations and 3 armies on top of it. We live by 5 principles, but we'll die for this. Freedom back to the people, protect them from the apocalypse. I took that title that they gave me and I clouded it. F what you say, sets the Q bait. I got a bond with this. My way of thinking pissed the military off. I ain't with their way of thinking, wrong the military law. We coming peaceful outside the mosque and the cathedral. And we'll resort to violence. I gotta protect my people. They call us ghetto, they call us thugs. The only God they worship, guns, oil, and